Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, coin lovers all over the world. Cris Bierrenbach here. I'm joined by Sam Spiegel, and we're going to be spending the next hour with you discussing the current situations in the world and ancient coin market. We're going to discuss our recent A&A auction and all kinds of other topics. But just to make sure that everybody knows, if you have any questions, please submit to us. Tommy's over there. He will send any questions that you might have, and we'll try to get to answer them as quickly and as a timely way as possible. With that, Sam, take it away.
Yeah. So it's been a while since we've done one of these podcasts or videos, at least a few months. And so we figured, in light of our June Hong Kong auction, the A&A auction, all of our showcase auctions, what we have coming up, it was time to put together another one of these, especially now that we're an award-winning podcast.
That's right. Yeah. So at the A&A, we got our award, best podcast in the coin industry, I suppose,
from
for the year.
Numismatic Literary Guild.
Thank you, Tommy, and all the producers for helping us. Thanks, everybody, for watching.
Yeah. So anyway, as I said, there's three main areas we want to talk about: the June Hong Kong auction, our August A&A auction, and then the expansion of our showcase venue, and more generally, the growth of specialized thematic auctions throughout the market. And so from there, we can look towards the end of the year and beginning of next year, which is shaping up to be quite the strong event. And it seems like the market is very, very healthy in light of all of these collections that are coming out, with prices still maintaining their levels and in some cases even rising. Yeah. So with that, let's go to the June Hong Kong signature auction and talk a little bit about the Chinese market, because that's always sort of, one of the most important sub-markets in the broad umbrella of world
in the global
coins.
arena, for sure. So we have, our next major event coming up is
December. Yeah.
December, Hong Kong signature auction and platinum nights. And, certainly the Chinese market is not as hot, not as in crazy demand as it was during COVID area. Mm-hmm. We've seen weakness in certain product areas and certainly off quality material, but certainly for those trophy high quality coins, I think we observe actually that prices remain strong.
Yeah, prices are strong. We just have to sort of reevaluate. The market, as I think we've said before, kind of peaked in around mid-2022 and has come back down since then. But something that we've emphasized a number of times in the past is we have to step back and look at the longer time horizon to see where the prices today are in the grand scheme of things. We can't compare them to the absolute peak. We need to look over the past 10, 20, 30 years to really understand how strong the market is. And so with that, I think we can look at the modern Chinese market, because that's the top lots in our June event were all modern coins. And that's always been a little more volatile than vintage Chinese coins. Yeah. But Tommy, can you pull up the first two lots? Yeah, so we had 2 kilos from this Discovery series, gold kilos from 1992. Each one sold for $816,000. At the peak of the Chinese market, the Compass alone, though, sold for $1.3 million, so over 50% more than this one realized. And so, from that perspective, it looks like, the market's down. However, again, if you sort of look at a longer time horizon, at the low point in 2013, if you can go to that next link I sent you from the other auction company, Tommy.
I think, okay.
Yeah, that one. So there were these 2 types that were sold together in this champion auction in 2013, which realized about 1.15 million. It was 8.2 million yuan, which converts to about 1.15, so less than $600,000 each. So again, it still shows that growth over the last decade. So modern Chinese, it's volatile, but it's still showing some strength. I think you're not going to find any other market in the world where a modern kilo of gold is going to sell for 800,000 plus.
Sure, no, considering that melts for 70,000,
something like
this. So it's selling for 11, 12 times intrinsic value. So yeah, absolutely. Then we can, let's look at some vintage Chinese to see how that's faring, because vintage Chinese, obviously, if you look long enough, say if you look before the year 2000, the Chinese market hadn't even started. Right. Essentially, all the big Chinese coins were at that time, for the most part, outside China.
Right. Yeah.
And around 2000, which not by coincidence, when Hong Kong came back to and the Chinese rule, and other things were happening culturally at the time, and then in China, and so starting in the year 2000, but accelerating in the mid 2000s into the 2010s, we see this sort of bringing back of vintage Chinese back to China and into other Asian markets, and then of course the Chinese buyers now expanding their horizons with other with other areas beyond China.
Yeah. So on the vintage side, I think a great bellwether in my mind is the Flying Dragon dollar, because it's a rare collectible type, but still, quote unquote common enough that we're going to have a few in every auction in different grades. Yeah. So it's what 64 plus that realized 180,000. So scroll down on the page, Tommy, to the previous prices grid, because there's a couple of points. Yeah, it's going to load in a second.
It's loading up there.
Just give that. Yeah, there you go. There's a couple of points that I want to bring up that are illustrated in this. The first is, you can see that we sold a 64 last August for 78,000. And at around the peak of the market in mid 2022, we had another 64 realized 96,000. However, this exact coin sold in December 2019. It's the fourth one down there, that 64 plus for
it's around 45,000.
Yeah, 46,000. So it went from 46,000 to 180,000 in 4.5 years. In the peak of the market, would it have sold for more than this? Maybe, but still, it's hard to be disappointed.
It seems like a fantastic result. I bet the consignor is very happy about this result, and we are too. I mean, it's an attractive coin, obviously, but not in line with the previous comps that you described.
Right. And I think there's two other points that this illustrates. One, for whatever reason, the market for vintage Chinese coins prefers PCGS over NGC.
Yeah.
You can see in the previous prices grid, those other two more recent results were NGC graded, which is not to say NGC doesn't know vintage Chinese as well as PCGS. Right. It's just, one of those quirks of the market where vintage Chinese coin collectors prefer PCGS holders, modern Chinese coin collectors prefer NGC holders.
Yeah.
Why? I don't know.
Yeah, correct.
But the other thing it illustrates is a preference for toned coins. So, most coins or most coin collectors all over the world are going to prefer a toned coin to a blast white coin, no color. But in my experience, the collectors for vintage Chinese coins place a much higher premium on toned and originality, which is what you see here. And I think one of the reasons why that's sold so strongly in the June auction, because it has this really nice original color to it. There's one other result I think that we can pull up about sort of the uniqueness of the Chinese market, which is for details coins. So if you look up that mausoleum dollar I sent you, Tommy, so this is an Unk Details coin, but it was cleaned long ago.
Yeah, it's still pretty nice. I mean, it looks nice.
It's been toned back over. Toned back over from when it was originally cleaned. And this one realized 48,000. And if you go down to the, it's not going to be in the previous prices grid, but I sent you another link to another mausoleum dollar, Tommy. An AU58 that sold for just under 41,000. Normally, I would consider Unk Details and AU58 kind of on par, and maybe even the 58 selling for more in other markets. But it seems like in the market for Chinese coins, collectors don't pay as much attention to details coins and are still willing to consider details graded coins seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it goes back to the old saying that you buy the coin, not the holder. And that remains true, and it will always be true. I mean, not all 58s are created equal. We know that. We also know that not all unk details are created equal. I mean, that looked like an attractive coin to me versus one that might be heavily cleaned or polished, or where the damage is significant. In this case, and you're right. I mean, I think to me, it shows that people are still looking at the coins, that our images are significant enough, and high quality enough for people to make these sort of decisions sight unseen. So, it's great to see. And of course, the market is dynamic. And
I think it speaks to the maturity of the market that people are willing to consider, not just outright discount details graded coin. They'll seriously consider it. Whereas I think in some newer markets, people just don't consider details graded coins, and they sell for a much bigger discount.
That's correct. And I think it also, I mean, we see this often, this sort of thing. We see a lot with like the 58s and 61s, 62s, sometimes 58s that are really, really attractive, might even beat one of the mint state grades. So it's right. It's actually, a good job on the audience that everybody's just looking at the coins and paying attention and studying and making sure they're making smart bidding decisions.
Yeah. So if we have time, there's one other aspect of the Chinese market I think that's worth bringing up, which is the strength of Chinese cash and SICE.
Right.
So there's one other result I sent you, Tommy, there it is. Yeah. There's 1,000 cash. So to be honest, I know very little about cash and SICE, but I do love how passionate the collectors are for it. And Gongbo grading has been essential for us sort of coming into that space and having as much success as we have had for it, which is the primary grading company for SICE and cash, because it's not something that NGC or PCGS will hold.
Yeah, I mean, this is very challenging. Obviously, ancient Chinese coins are very difficult to, especially for us Westerners, to attribute, let alone authenticate. And you're absolutely right. This grading service and the partnership that we had with them sort of opened this whole new market for us, whole new demographic of SICE and ancient Chinese cash coins, and we've been having some strong results. And I think the consigners are liking it because we've been growing on the amount of ancient Chinese coins that we've been receiving and an inquiries that we've been receiving. So.
Actually, so Kenneth, our managing director in Hong Kong, was telling me that we actually are the market leader for cash and SICE because we're getting better prices than anyone else for it.
That's fantastic. If you have cash coins or SICE, call Samurai. We're here.
And we're setting sort of new precedent for people to be able to research it, because that one we just had up that sold for 102,000. Our estimate was 6,000 to 8,000 on it, and it just shot up during the live event. So because there wasn't like records for us to compare it to.
It's difficult for us, but again, it's our audience is amazing in that sense that nothing really gets through.
It doesn't slip through the cracks. So anyway, with that, should we move on to the A&A auction?
Absolutely, yeah. What an exciting sale. It was wonderful to see that the time that we have at the A&A, these big sales like the A&A or New York International, or the sales that we have in the fall and the spring that include big signature sales and platinum nights, is that we can sort of measure and have a sense of the sort of the strength of the market across the board from A to Z, and at different price levels. And I got to tell you, like I was, and we do this game with our entire team to guess the value of the auction at the end, and everybody was pretty much on the low side. Everybody thought the auction was going to realize less, which just speaks to the activity and the action that we saw that day. Again, are there certain areas of the market that might be a little weaker than those peaks? Perhaps some of the high-end British is not as incredible as it's been on an incredible run, and it's I think it's kind of due. The market was due for a correction on that. But again, what we see, and we might even be a little repetitive with this, like when we see high quality coins, beautiful coins that are, you know, desirable types, it always, regardless of what point in the market cycle that we're in, it always does well. And I think this ANA sale with the 3 standalone auctions that we had, plus the Platinum Night and the signatures, we saw strength. I particularly found it to be an extremely exciting sale, lots of activity and great results. So it bodes well for the future for us. And
as
what did you think?
I thought it was great. You know, as you were saying, it's not across the board, everything selling for record prices. And, you know, we saw that with, for example, the Wolfenson collection of Australian coins, which is probably the best collection of Australian coins we've ever handled. But, you know, the peak of that market was maybe 10 years ago or so. And, you know, prices were down from there, but still, I'd say in the current climate, stronger than we anticipated.
Yeah.
You know, we went in with tempered expectations. The big lot, of course, was the 20S Sovereign. Yeah, there it is, which this is the rarest circulation strike Sovereign in the entire Sovereign series.
Which is quite vast.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's collectors all over the world.
Hundreds of different types with dates and everything. So.
Yeah. As we note in the description, this exact coin sold in a St. James auction in 2014, where it realized a hammer price of around £440,000.
Okay.
So about $732,000. So with the BP, you know, 900,000 or something. But amazingly, it was sold raw at the time, which shows how the market has changed in the past 10 years. Because I don't think you could get away with selling this coin raw today. Like even in Europe, like very traditional minded auction houses, I think they would know that a coin like this needs to be put in the holder.
Absolutely. Yeah. It would be, I mean, it would be a disaster for the consignor to sell pretty much anything that is important numismatic. Let's say things that are 50,000 or even lower, really. I mean, particularly condition rarities, things that are, you know, pretty coins like
machine struck coins like this.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no question that selling these type of uncertified coins would leave money on the table for the collector, the consignor in that case, or for, you know, whoever is selling it.
But it's 10 years ago wasn't that long, and yet it was still sold raw.
Oh yeah, correct.
So anyway, you know, as we were saying, Australia's a little down across the board from its peak about 10 years ago. This one sold for a little less. Another example was the 23S Sovereign, which is more accessible, but, you know, still rare for the type. If you scroll to the previous prices grid, we sold a 64 for nearly 38,000, and now a decade later, one in the same grade selling for a little less. So, you know, I don't want to give the impression in these videos that like everything's going great, record prices, etc. You know, we have to, address the realities of the market.
Sure. Yeah.
But, you know, on the other end of the spectrum, the Carpathian collection of Romanian coins that we had, that was selling for record prices across the board. Amazing.
Yes. So I think we see with things like Eastern Europe, you know, Latin America, developing, let's call it developing countries, what lots of people call developing countries. We've seen a lot of activity on that. And Romania, certainly this was incredible. Of course, a very important collection of Romania, a country that it's somewhat limited on their issues, not that many issues, fairly recent, starting, you know, perhaps there in the mid-19th century. But we had some fantastic results, even for coins that we thought were common. And we see these things with Wolfenson, with pedigree, with Carpathian, with many pedigree collections that really collectors like to buy from other collectors. And we see this over and over again. And I think it's one of the things that happened here with the Romanian. I mean, had we ever, I don't remember ever us offering a Romanian collection. I mean, we certainly have offered groups of Romanian coins and individual Romanian coins, but I don't remember having something like this, this important.
Well, you couldn't just go out and buy a collection of Romanian coins like this. This was a lifetime pursuit that the collector put together. And it's probably the most important collection of Romanian coins to come to market in a generation, if ever.
Yeah.
And that gets to a theme that we'll touch on more later. I like what you said about collectors wanting to buy from other collectors. And I think it also shows the importance of curated collections and auctions where it's very targeted. So rather than get this group of Romanian coins and sort of just put it in all the different venues and mix it up, I think putting it all together really helped realize that full price for everything, where the sum is greater than the parts.
No, agreed.
So then the third standalone collection in that particular auction was the Odo collection of physical cryptocurrency.
Yes, the second installment.
Yeah, Odo Part 2, that's right. And I would say this is probably one of the fastest growing subcategories at Heritage.
Oh yeah.
Like not just in numismatics, but company-wide. Percentage-wise, the premiums over the spot price are fairly minimal. I think spot price the day of the auction was around 57, 58,000.
Yes. 58,600 was actually around the lock-in price.
And so the premiums are 5 or 10% for one Bitcoin pieces. But when Bitcoin's at $60,000 or nearly 60,000, that's pretty significant dollar-wise as a premium.
Yeah.
Perhaps not surprisingly, the lower denomination Bitcoin, being at a lower price point, sell for the biggest premium percentage-wise, though.
That's right.
So we had a lot of 1 Bitcoin and a number of half Bitcoin, but there were also 1/10 Bitcoins, which we had never offered before until this auction. So I sent you one of those, Tommy, if you can pull that up. Yeah, this is a proof 69.1 Bitcoin. So
essentially 5,800.
Yeah, around 5,800 peel price, face value, whatever you want to call it. And it sold for 14,400. So that's a significant premium over that peel price.
Yeah, correct. Nearly 300% for that.
Yeah.
And we also had some redeemed ones. One of my favorites was that gold 10, was it 1,000?
1,000. It was never funded, but yeah.
So this is 1,000 Bitcoins, which I guess if it were funded ever, would have been nearly $60 million. Is that correct?
There are a couple of funded ones out there, which would make those the most expensive coin in the world.
Absolutely.
This one was never funded, but it's still made of solid gold.
Yeah.
Which I think, at the time was a lot of money relative to the price of Bitcoin. Bitcoin when these were produced was under $100 a piece.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah, I love this lot, and I was surprised that it brought that much, actually. It was the action on it. I mean, my feeling before the auction was like this was a $10,000
me too.
item,
right.
But then you see that, that demographic is quite attentive and quite active already, even though this is something that's fairly new. Coming to the market anyways, even though the Bitcoin, the physical Bitcoins aren't new, but the auctions are, and, very happy. And obviously the consignor is very happy as well. So, are we going to have part 3 coming in the near future? Or what do you say?
We have a selection of Bitcoin in the November signature auction, but the next part 3 will likely be in January in conjunction with the New York International.
Excellent.
Okay. So should we move on to talk about some ancients?
Yes.
We've spent a lot of time on world coins, so let's pull up some ancient coins. Could you sort this by highest price first, Tommy? That page you have up? Thanks. So the top lot you see there, the Maximinus Aureus, was one of the coolest coins I've ever handled in my career.
And you've handled a few of them.
Well, I've handled a lot of cool coins. I have never handled one of these before.
Why? What's so cool about it?
So there have been, I think, 3 other Maximinus Aureae that have sold anywhere in the market in the last 25 years. This is extremely rare. And in fact, when we sent it into NGC, I got a call from my good buddy Dave Vagey, the head of NGC Ancients.
Sure.
And he was amazed by the coin and said he never thought he'd handle one of these because it is just so rare. I was expecting around 200,000 or so for it because there's a lot of people out there putting together an emperor set, like one gold coin of every emperor. And for a max, I mean, this is your option. You're not really going to have another opportunity for one of these.
Great reverse. I mean, that whole posture on the throne there with the snakes, fantastic. Very pretty coin.
Yeah, there's a little bit of brushing on the reverse, and that's why, NGC gave it the designation of brushed, but it doesn't matter for a coin like this. Really, that doesn't affect the price. And that normally I would say stay away from a notation like that if you can help it. But for a coin like this, you take what you can get. It really doesn't matter. Another coin I want to call attention to, though, is actually one of the more common coins we had in Platinum Night, precisely because it is common, which is the Lucius Verus Aureus in gem mint state fine style, selling for $56,500. That's a huge price for one of these, because Lucius Verus in gem is not particularly rare. If you look at the NGC population grid on the lot page, it'll load in just a second there. NGC's graded 25 in gem or gem star, which is a lot for them. I mean, they do not give out gem mint state easily. I believe several decades ago there was a horde of top quality pieces, so it's kind of just a fluke of survival.
It's still such a gorgeous. I mean, I love that bust. Again, to me, that looks like a $10,000 coin. But but what do I know? But I love, it's lovely busts of Lucius, and I guess somebody, and this is a really nice one.
And victory on the reverse with the shield,
so somebody loved, a couple of people at least loved it.
If you scroll down to the previous prices grid, Tommy, you'll see this type was consistently selling for around $30,000 for literally years. Like it was kind of just a product that traded. Like, you buy it at 28,000, sell it for 30, buy it at 30, sell it at 32,
commodity.
Just within a pretty narrow range. But in the past year and a half, we've seen a pretty steady increase up to, it was 43,000 at a sale. When was that? May 2023. And then this one at 50 something thousand, 56,000. And so similarly, another one that I think can gauge the market is the Alexander Stater and Choice MS fine style we had, which sold for 43,000.
Wow.
Again, this is a type that consistently was trading for around 20,000 in this condition for years. And then in the last year or so, we've seen a notable uptick in the realizations for this type in that grade. So I think, like we've been saying, top quality coins are selling for a premium. And then, but, like I said earlier, we don't want to say it's all, roses. There are some weak spots.
I mean, nothing goes up forever. I mean, it's clear the cycles are, I mean, what we see for us, for World and Ancients, I think it's still a maturing market. I mean, when we look at U.S. coins, that it's a market that's fully matured. It's been, the coins have essentially, 90% plus of U.S. coins are now in holders. Right. So that sort of puts a good perspective on what, how mature that market is, how well established it is, where we are probably 20 to 25 years behind, 15 to 20. So we're still in the maturing level. And, we deal with 200 different countries, and we deal with, of course, with many more countries that don't exist. So it's quite fortunate for us in that sense. But should we move to some world coins now from the ANA?
Yeah, we can. Sure.
Okay.
I think we saw a similar pattern with world coins, with top quality retaining strength. I don't want to focus just on the big, 5 and 6 figure coins. I think it's worth pointing out sort of some more accessible material. Some of the down ballot races. And so one thing that really struck me was some of the Mexican coins in this auction.
Oh, yeah.
Can you pull up that 1753 Ada Escudo I sent you? Yeah, that one. $10,500.
For not even mint state, right? So this would have been a $5,000 to $6,000 coin, $4,000 to $6,000 coin normally in this grade. I mean, 53 is not a particularly rare date. Can you scroll down a little bit, Tommy, just to see if we see some previous prices there? It's about to load up again. Can you see that, Sam?
In May 2023, we had a 58 sell for 6,600.
Yeah.
And then in 2019, 55, 3,800, 3,000. Like
I said, 4,000 to 6,000. And this, I mean, we're seeing this in Mexico. I think where it started. We've been seeing Mexico strengthening quite aggressively for the past, say, 24 months to 18 to 24 months. And I think in this auction, we saw that sort of spill over to other countries in Latin America, including Brazil and, Peru and other parts that prices clearly jumped on product like this. And you have some examples. I think, this first one is clearly one. I mean, that's a coin that, like we said, just about a year ago was selling for half of what this one brought. And this wasn't a particularly premium coin, or there wasn't anything special about it. So
I'd call it just a good collector coin example.
Slightly better type, but nothing particularly special.
I sent you another Mexican coin to pull up, Tommy. The 1806, Ada Escudo. This is, it wasn't too long ago. This would have been close to a bullion coin, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is, it's a pretty nice coin. I mean, I don't know. It's graded 61 by NGC. It looks nice to me. But yeah, for sure. Even if this was like a 63 of this type, 1806, very common date, very common type of a Mexican Charles IV, 8 escudos. I mean, this was a coin that even in the 63 would have brought not too long ago around 3,500 to 4,000.
Yeah.
And this is a price. This is a 65 price.
What 65
used to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're seeing sort of this same drive to quality where, things like pillar dollars, 8 escudos, big type 8 escudos, really in choice or plus grades are getting sort of geometric prices.
Right. And so, Mexico, like we were saying, is one of those areas where we're seeing a ton of strength.
Yeah.
Where maybe British coins have kind of leveled out for a bit. Mexico is definitely on the rise. And there's a huge number of young, passionate, and knowledgeable collectors coming in, which bodes well for the future of that market. So, we're saying that these coins are selling for really strong prices now, but it's hard to say where the future is going to be.
Oh, it might be that we'll look back 10 years from now and be like, I wish I had bought every single Mexican coin I could have.
Because, you look at that 1806 8 escudo, what would a similar U.S. coin from that time period in that condition sell for? It's hard to make a one-to-one comparison.
Figures,
but
maybe?
Not to say this is going to be a 6-figure coin one day, but just relative to what other coins, are selling for from that same time period, it's more reasonable.
Yeah, for sure.
One other world coin we'll pull up from the A&A auction, because you mentioned it's spilling over to other areas of Latin America. 1968 soles in 64.
I mean, this when I started and well into not that long ago, maybe until 5-7 years ago, this was straight up a bullion coin. Like people bought them by the rolls, especially the ones in the 1960s. Nobody much cared about condition. Most of them, are in nice condition. These coins didn't circulate. And I can tell you that I never thought these would have any premium, let alone the premiums that we're seeing. And that has to do, one, with grading, increased demand, and, things like, registry sets.
Right. They're low mintages.
The mintages are low. Yeah. And now, and we talk about this a lot, rarity is in the condition, right? It's not just the item or the type itself, but, every coin is rare in certain conditions. And with this coin becoming more numismatic, there's enough mass in the pop reports for collectors to find where the rarities are and then sort of compete for those. So, you know, like we see them selling into, you know, tens of thousands of dollars sometimes. So it's pretty amazing to see.
So one thing on that last coin that I'll point out for people who may not be aware of it, if you scroll down just a little bit, Tommy, to the description, a little bit more. Yeah, so stop there. We actually list the melt value for these coins. So we'll have the AGW, the gold price, and the melt price, because this isn't, you know, 1 ounce of gold. It's more than an ounce. And so you can see at the time of the auction, it melted for about 33.26.
Yeah.
So if you go to the previous prices grid and you were to click around and see what things were selling for, you know, you may not know what gold was trading at in 2015 at this time. So it makes for a more easy comparison, so you can see what percentage premium it was selling
apples
for.
to apples. That's right.
That's something we added in the past couple of years, and I think is really helpful for these sorts of coins.
Oh, even dating back for previous lots?
Yeah, we have it pulled back to you know, a decade plus, where we have the data available.
Oh, that helps a lot. The collectors, exactly like you said, you can make comparisons that are more meaningful, and certainly, I mean, they'll be able to. Everybody can tell if we go and look that the premium on these Peruvian coins. I mean, even the 50 pesos from Mexico. Yeah. I mean, these. I mean, you doesn't get more bullion than this. Yeah. But certain grades and certain dates and certain grades are seeing premium. So
even the restrike 47.50 pesos in high grade sell for, you know, $100 premium, $200 premium.
Yeah, which is which they're striking up to this date, I believe.
So, yeah, there's the new dies. So do you want to go on and talk about showcase auctions?
Yes, absolutely. One of my favorite topics, showcases. Showcase auctions. I mean, we have them, as everybody knows, we have a bunch of them at all times. Why do we love them? We love them, and collectors love them because they are thematic. They're narrow to what individuals collect, right? So if there's a showcase for Mexico, there's a showcase for British coins, there's a showcase for French coins. You know, there's a Scandinavian one right there. I mean, modern coins, several themes for ancient coins. You know, we had Macedonian Kingdom that just closed last night, and all kinds of things. And this we've found that these themes sort of match the themes of collectors out there, and they much prefer to focus on what they collect and the few hundred lots that we have in these showcases, other than having to dig through, 1,500 or 2,000 lots in the main sales and finding their coins that are, mixed with a bunch of other materials. So the success has been great for us. We've gone from, I think I read your note that we had 14 in 2021. Yeah, 14 showcases in 2021. This year we'll have around 100. Well, yeah. So we essentially have 2 closing every week. Yeah. On average, sometimes we have more, and it allows for a very targeted marketing, and also, of course, the other side of it is if you're a collector and you have a collection and you've built a collection around your personal theme, you can build your own showcase if it fits. Yeah. Right. And just have your own exclusive auction. Don't mix your coins with anybody else's. I mean, I think this is highly, highly desirable for collectors out there. And it's not just that we're throwing more auctions on the calendar. The auctions themselves are growing as well. That's right. Whereas they used to maybe average 150,000 a sale or something like that. If you look at some of the recent ones we've had, 184,000 for metals and tokens, 515,000 for France, 730,000 for modern coins, 600 plus for Netherlands. I mean, these are significant auctions. Yeah. And there's some high value coins that would otherwise be in signature or platinum, but we're seeing prices are actually higher there than they've been elsewhere. Well, the Dutch collection, the Dutch showcase that you mentioned is a good example. I mean, even our friends in Holland from our Dutch office from Heritage Auctions Europe, Jaco and team made commentary to everybody to tell us how high those prices were in that sale. That those are their local coins. They know it well, and they were very surprised by the prices that the coins realized.
So I pulled out some examples where we can make some one-to-one comparisons.
Good. Okay.
I think before we get that, I want to kind of underscore the point that you made earlier about how they're targeted and you don't have to search through 1,500 or 2,000 or in our old days 5,000 or 6,000 lots.
Yeah.
Tommy, I sent you a link to 6bid.com, which is this is the main auction calendar that we use in the world coin market. And just scroll down the page. You'll see that at any given time, there are dozens and dozens of auctions. Like keep scrolling, you're not going to reach the end.
There you go. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
There's a ton of auctions going on around the world at any given time. And so the part of the philosophy behind the showcases is to make it easier for our clients to find what they want to find. So rather than looking through our auction, through the platinum session, signature, final session, weekly auctions, all of that, we just put it all in one place to make it as easy as possible. But anyway, going back to what I was saying, we are seeing better prices in showcases than we get in even the signature auctions for a comparable coin because it's this targeted, curated selection. So we had Spotlight France close last week.
A few days ago,
yeah. And we had a number of 100 francs in there, good collectible world gold type. And this was a 1885 MS64 100 francs. So scroll down to the previous prices grid. This one realized just under 14,000. And that very first result, that was from our May signature auction. We had another 64 sell for $9,000.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty
significant.
You could say, well, it's a PCGS holder versus NGC. It's an old label versus new label. I mean, that's not going to account for a 50% difference.
Not at all.
Like
maybe 10%.
One extra bid.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And then another one, go to the 1886 100 francs I sent you, Tommy. So another 100 francs. This one realized just over $5,200, $5,280. This was a 64, and we had another 64 sell in the New York International auction in January for $4,800. The New York International, I mean, we still hear from kind of old-time collectors and dealers. They want their material in the New York International. It has to be in the New York International. And I mean, if they insist, we'll accommodate, but we'll try and convince them otherwise. And these are great examples why, where just because it's the biggest show of the year for world and ancient coins doesn't mean it's going to get the best prices.
No, I agree. I mean, if it was 100,000 for the big coin, then they have a point. But I think for coins like this, and for the vast majority of the product coins that we handle for collectors and consigners, you're right. I mean, it's clear. The trend is clear that the dedicated attention that showcases get is very focused. There's no distractions there, and it matches sort of the audience's themes, and that's worked well for us. And again, if we look back enough, like we started these essentially as single owner, single consigner sales whose theme necessarily was the consigner's theme. It wasn't something that we put together, but it evolved quite nicely to be something, that, if people collect France or they collect British coins, and if they have British coins, and it's the vast majority of collections will fit just way better in showcase format that they would otherwise. I mean, there's, of course, if you go beyond certain levels, then it changes. But for the vast majority of collections out there, it's really, really a nice fit.
Yeah. So you mentioned something earlier about sort of having an anchor collection to build a showcase around it, and you brought up the Netherlands showcase we had a week or so ago, which I think is a great example of that, because we've been selling this Kunin collection for the past several auctions, which is this major collection of Dutch coins. And that served as an anchor to build this sale, where we had a group, we got the next group, which had some lower value material in it. Though, it turns out not as low value as we were thinking, because these were selling for record prices. You can see that top lot there, that Dutch East Indies quarter gulden selling for about 50,000. And I doubt that would have achieved anything higher in our platinum session. I think that was all the money for that coin. But one of the most amazing results in that auction, in my mind, was actually the 1849 proof half gulden, the second one there, selling for 29,000.
Wow.
It's a beautiful coin, but technically it's a 63, right? Which, great condition, great coin. Compare it, though, to the Cape Coral Collection. So we finished selling the Cape Coral Collection last year, which is like the highest quality collection of World Crown.
On average, for sure. Yeah.
And we had a 66 plus there.
Okay.
You should have that link, Tommy. Yeah. 66 plus. That's
clearly a much nicer coin.
19,000. Yeah. The toning, the condition, everything. And that was a crazy price for that coin.
Yes. Yeah.
And so to go from that 66 plus result in, this was January 2021, to, nearly 30,000 for one that 3.5 points less.
Yeah.
I mean, that's amazing.
For sure.
And so, as you were saying, that our colleagues in our Dutch office were saying that this was making waves in the Dutch numismatic community because people couldn't believe the results, because this was, untouchable prices.
Yeah.
So, looking at the broader market, it feels sometimes like the showcase venue is a secret weapon, but it's no secret, and it's something that other auction companies have been doing to varying extent for years.
That's true. Yeah.
Like when Stax opened their Hong Kong auctions, 15 years ago or so. That's a venue dedicated and curated for the Chinese market.
Yeah.
C&G started holding Islamic-focused auctions a year or two ago. Other firms have experimented with these very targeted, focused auctions. But I think the benefit we have with our platform and our size, we have economies of scale, is we can be very agile.
Oh, yeah.
And put one of these auctions on the calendar very quickly and build a sale around it to get to critical mass.
Absolutely. Yeah. No one can be as dynamic and nimble and quick in producing sales and putting together sales as we do. I mean, it's clear. I mean, as we see the competition out there, I mean, we shout out to the World and Ancient Coin team at Heritage, who are the responsible parties for us having so many successful auctions. I mean, the work that they do is amazing. The capacity and the ability of the team to put so many sales together is impressive. And we continue to work on efficiencies. We continue to work on ways to make sure that we keep up with demand that we have from our consignors and our clientele to send us coins, and making sure that we are working in a timely fashion. So before we go into the upcoming auctions that we have, I'll say this to everybody out there, that we continue to expand. So if you would like to work with us, send us your resume, send an email. There's the emails here down. Cris and Sam. We have a number of open positions, both in ancient and world coins. So inquiry with us. We need your help, and we need to be able to continue to keep that pipeline wide and clear for our clients.
Yeah, great point. Do you want to end talking, or at least giving a little preview for what we have coming up, especially in January?
Tommy, do we have any questions so far? We have a question, I think. Go ahead and put it on, and then we'll talk a little bit about what's coming in November. Okay, what's your view on the crown type market, e.g. UK Gothic crowns, German Guinea bird or paradise? Love it. German states, prices have risen so much less decades. What are your thoughts for the future? That's a great question. We Gothic crown, German birds of paradise, all these big types is essentially what the contemporary collector is looking for, right? They're not, so the old collector might have built date sets, for example. They might take one coin, take like a Morgan dollar, and then he would buy one of 1878, 79, 79 CC, 75. So you end up with, dozens and dozens of the same coin. It looks exactly the same, but might have an S or an O, and this is the same for, say, Mexican
30 years ago,
or,
very academic focus, right?
And
just
very
the
focused.
varieties.
And now, this types that you mentioned, Gothic Crown, for example, was one of the most popular types in Asia. It's an incredibly popular type and great in demand. And this is true for big types of any country. And it goes into, by the way, we have a collection coming in January, Vlad, that it illustrates this quite well. We haven't even released this yet, but there's a collection coming called the Eternal Collection in January that will highlight this perfectly, because this is a collector who was essentially buying trophy coins, high quality, important type coins from different countries, not paying much attention to country or date, but paying attention to the coin itself, to the type. Let's say Honduras, what is the most significant, most important coin of that type? And he was buying that. So we have hundreds of these coins coming up.
And he was paying particular attention to pedigrees as well.
Paying attention to pedigrees and buying extra high quality, gems or ultra gems, and buying, exactly right, buying coins from the Millennia Collection, from Pittman, from Eliasberg, from Jacobs, just big names. And that we'll see the first installment of the Eternal Collection is coming up in New York at the New York International, and it will be Romantic Europe, let's say Latin Europe, plus Russia. So be on the lookout for that. Some amazing coins coming.
Right.
Thank you for the question there, Vlad. Rich asks, what are the risks with ancient coins for government confiscation on new treaty rules with European countries? Best person in the world to answer is right here next to me. Go ahead, Sam.
Yeah. So I'm actually the head of the Free Trade Committee of the International Association of Professional Numismatists. And so these are things that we grapple with all of the time. And I wish I could tell you exactly what the risks are, but the fact is the rules are changing, and the way people interpret them really differ depending on who you ask. So it's not as clear cut as we would like. And that's one of the things that we're working on doing in the IAPN for all of our members, is trying to give clear kind of rules of engagement on what to do and how to do it. Unfortunately, ancient coins are sort of a pawn as part of larger sort of global dynamics. Like a country once rule saying that everything here is considered cultural property, and the U.S. will give it in exchange for trade favorability on other things that we care about.
It could just be a part of a greater negotiation.
Exactly. Yeah. And the thing is, some countries consider things up until like the 20th century cultural property, right? Where you may have grown up with something. Your childhood books or toys are now cultural property, and that's not much of an exaggeration. So the best piece of advice I can give you with that is to buy from reputable dealers. Reputable dealers who have an established business, who aren't some fly-by-night operation. I put it this way to a collector who asked me the same thing, because he was looking at some auctions online. And I said, look, if the email address is, at gmail.com or at AOL.com, and it's just some guy's apartment as the address, maybe best to stay away from that. Like, if you're buying ancient coins seriously, you want to buy from a reputable, established source. So, in the unlikely scenario that something is a problem, they'll make right on it.
Correct. Any more questions? We do. Okay. Is it possible to buy coins on HA US and send to HA Netherlands?
On shipping. Yeah.
To save on shipping?
Yes. That is absolutely correct. We have that option. Same with London, same with Tokyo, same with Hong Kong, where there's a flat shipping fee. I think it's $50 per invoice to go to the Netherlands office, and then you can either pick up there or they can forward on to you elsewhere in Europe. You are going to be liable for the Netherlands import VAT, which I believe is 9%.
Probably the lowest in Europe, sounds like.
I think Germany is a little bit lower. But But of course, if it's considered investment gold, meaning it's one of the coins on the investment gold list that come out on the EU, there is no import VAT.
So sovereigns, for example.
Yeah, sovereigns, 20 francs, 100 francs, all that sort of thing.
Yeah, Peruvian.
Right. So that's a great question, and I'm glad you brought that up, because that is something that it's a service that we're able to offer to clients because we have an international hello to Switzerland.
Hi, amazing coins in Switzerland.
Because we have such a global network of offices in Europe, in London, Japan, Hong Kong, across the US, we're able to offer those sorts of services.
Yeah,
and
that's why those offices exist. Actually, it's for customer service to our clientele, and then to somebody they can pick up and drop off, which is what we do.
Yeah.
So any more questions? If not, we'll just Sam, you want to go through some of the things that are coming up in New York, and we'll close.
Sure. So you already mentioned the Eternal Collection. We mentioned earlier Odo Part 3 of physical cryptocurrency.
There you go.
We have selections from John Kern's collection, old time coin dealer who had one of the best eyes in the business, one of the best eyes. Really exciting to have some material from him. But we also have some other super, individual highlights. And one of the coolest is the Star of India decoration.
Do we have that, or you have? Oh my God, look at that.
So can you zoom in on the front of that, the first image? This is one of the coolest things. Do you want to give the story on this?
This is, I love decorations. I love metals. And this is probably the coolest metal item that I've ever seen. It belongs in an old collection. It actually it came from the Farouk sale in the 1950s, belonged to the King Farouk of Egypt. It's the Star of India. Can you zoom out and see the whole, let's see the whole box?
Other way.
Zoom out. Yeah. Like that box is the size of an extra large pizza, if you could figure that. And can you zoom in on the star in the bottom there? Okay, that's the top of the box. So the bottom, that gold star there. Yeah, so right there. So that is actually, it's almost like it's a wonderful piece of jewelry that was built. You can open that on the right there. You can open that metal, and there's a beautiful Gothic bust of Queen Victoria in there, all made in gold, with that necklace also made in gold. Very exciting. We really have no idea how much this is worth, but we believe that collectors out there are going to love it, and the competition is going to be fierce. So this is coming in January, together with some other very interesting decorations that we have there from the same consignor.
Yeah. So ex-Farouk collection, and then bought by Max Mell, the local Fort Worth dealer.
Yes, and it was last shown at the 1953 Dallas A&A. So since 1953, it hasn't seen the light of day. No one has seen it. It's been kept in the family. It's now in the third generation. So
yeah, it's going to be cool.
Pretty cool.
I mean, the January auction is shaping up to be otherworldly.
Yeah, it's the same across the board. The company, U.S. Coins at Fun, seems to be growing to be quite a sale as well. But yeah, New York International, we already have several dedicated auctions and a platinum night that's shaping up to be quite impressive. So, we'll see everybody there, and we see everybody online every day. And if you have any coins to consign or any questions for us, please email us. There's the email, the emails again. Other than that, Sam, do you have anything else?
No, I think that covers it. We're coming up on an hour now.
Perfect timing. Well, then we'll say so long to everybody out there, and good luck bidding.
All right. Thank you.